Hello, and welcome to After Hours. I'm Rhonda Freeman. Today we have anti-globalization activist Connie Fogal with us. Welcome to After Hours, Connie.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. It's good to be kind of doing this again.
Yeah, it's been some time. You have, such an interesting background. You've been a teacher, a lawyer, a politician. You were leader of the Canadian Action Party. There are so many facets to your life, and all of it has had a common thread of fighting for the people against a ruling elitist sort of global elite group. And how did that all begin? Like you're from Saskatchewan originally, mm-hmm. and were you influenced as a child?
Oh yes, very much. I grew up in Tommy Douglas country, mm-hmm. and I was a young person during the time of a lot of good things being developed in Canada, like the Medicare system, hospitalization. I can remember, I'm old enough that I remember when we didn't have those things, and it was how hard it was. So, I was around people all the time talking about living in ways, the society functioning in ways that is good. Ways that are good for people. Mm-hmm. So I grew up with that, and with that kind of a struggle, and listening to people talk about paying attention to the interests of people rather than an oppressive leading ruling group. So that
a corporate aristocracy or something along those
whatever, the whole thing. And of course Saskatchewan was one of the prairie provinces that did a lot of changes in its structure so that it served the community. When you talk about hydro and transportation, roads, it was a sparse country with a lot of distance, and so government and crown corporations became a way of living and a way of serving the people, and they still have a good hydro. They're losing things slowly too as things are happening, but it's. I just grew up with a whole understanding of how important it is to structure the way your society is so it meets the needs of people.
And then you came to Vancouver and you met Harry Rankin.
I did. Yeah,
and you were married for many years.
Yeah. That was good. That was the best part of my life. I can say I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to share a part of his life and be with someone that was so totally and absolutely a server of the people, and everything he did was in the interest of humanity, and so it was really wonderful sharing that time.
And he had a sort of a semi-activist type background, and
he
did he not really?
Well, yeah, his whole life was an activist. What are you asking me? You mean
is that what you were saying? The attraction perhaps might have been.
I met him
because you were both from an activist background.
I met him when the resource boards, Vancouver resource boards, were coming into effect in the 70s, and I was on a board in Kitsilano, and he was the chairman of the Vancouver Resources Board. And I would watch him function, and it was his way, his political bent, the way he talked. Everything he said always kind of went to the core of something. It was easy with him. A lot of people will feel a certain way, but they don't know how to express it. And he always kind of hit the nail on the head, and that's why people liked him so much, And mm-hmm. so my background sort of just fitted into the way his life was, and the way he talked, and the way he performed, and it was an easy attraction for sure.
And now the fight seems to be, many people say, the U.S. is divided. I think the whole world is divided. We're all divided between the globalists versus the anti-globalists. And a lot of people, a lot of people that watch this program, for instance, they watch because they don't have a computer, or they're not on computer, they're not on the internet. So they're not exposed to something that's not mainstream media. So they might not have any idea of what that is, globalization versus anti-globalization. So how did that all really start for you? When did you really begin to see that this world is heading towards sort of a one world government?
Well, I guess it all started probably with the free trade agreement way back. I don't remember what year that started. And then after learning about these agreements and then studying them and realizing what they're really doing, I won't say that that's when I started my interest in my activism. I mean, I was always interested at whatever level, starting with health issues coming from Saskatchewan.
Social issues.
Yeah, social issues, and then coming to Vancouver. I spent a lot of my life going to school. So much, and I was very lucky because I lived at a time in Saskatchewan when I was a young person coming out of high school. There was free money, a little bit, not much. We didn't need an awful lot, and then there was also money you could get as loans, which was interest free. Oh. And that's why my family is a farm background. We didn't have a lot of money. There wasn't. We were 6 kids. There wasn't money to put me through university. I had to do it myself, but I didn't do it myself. The society helped me, and so that mattered to me. Even way back then, I understood how important it was for the society to help people to get to improve themselves, to climb up the ladder. And one thing that's interesting is that there's an economist by the name of Schultz, I forget his first name, was asked after the Second World War, we thought after the war that we had Germany and Japan crushed and they would never develop again, and we wouldn't allow them to have armies, and we would make sure they were never going to be able to be oppressors again.
Build up.
But they've built up and their societies are thriving. What happened? Why was that? And his answer was, well, we forgot to factor in the 2 most important aspects, which are education and health. An educated, healthy society is a productive society. You have to be healthy in order to be able to study. And what are we doing? We're cutting back on health, we're cutting back on education, and that's so wrong. And that may be part of the global global agenda, so that you keep people dumb and you keep them sick, and then they're not going to be able to have the energy or the capacity mentally, thought-wise, to be able to function. That's why programs like this are so important. But
so globalization, it just sounds like this horrible, evil thing.
it is.
But yet they sell it as we are the world, kumbaya, everyone hold hands. So,
well, it would be nice if that was the way it was.
Well, that's how they're selling it.
Yes, of course, it's always a lie.
So there is a group of people, they're the heads of the most powerful corporations. They own almost, I guess, this is what I've read, and this is what I've heard. They own a lot of the politicians. It doesn't matter if you vote right or left. 9 times out of 10, they own they own every horse in every race.
They do.
And they have hijacked this social justice arrangement where they sell everything as for the betterment of mankind or for the people, and it almost seems like it's hard to not believe that this is a good thing, but in actuality, what are we losing? And has anything I've said is correct?
The thing
from what you know.
The thing is, the point about globalization is to have everything run from one central place, everything is controlled around the world, to take away the capacity of people to make the decisions for themselves, to be able to control their lives. So you have everything happening up at this level, and then everything is, even in the central bureaucracy that operates the world, flowing from it the way it works in Europe and then back around the whole world, nobody's elected to those positions. They get appointed from their various governments. The rulers of the world, the elite, the Bilderbergers, the Illuminati, all of this kind of stuff, that they have no allegiance to any nation. They don't want nations. They only have a sense of power and greed. And the important thing right now in their goal is to eliminate sovereignty. What is sovereignty? Sovereignty is the ability and the capacity of people to make decisions to rule their own destiny in their own areas, according to their way they live. We live differently here than someone somewhere else in the world. In my view, I like that. That's a good thing. I don't want us all to be the same. What are they doing right now? They're causing these wars, creating the agenda where refugees are all around, floating into different parts of the world. It's a way to move people together, put them all in to create a kind of a melting pot, so you get rid of the differences in people. So you make them all have to go someplace and try to be the same. What is the same? The same is dictated. How do you think? You think the way you're told. And how are you told? You're told by a controlled media.
But they also sell it as, again, they use this whole, this is good for society, because, well, you see, without borders, without differences, there's no war.
Well, that's BS, of course. There is war all the time, because the agenda is to have permanent warfare, because part of the individuals, the ones that control the world, are the arms manufacturers. They're the corporations that make a fortune out of war, and they don't want war to stop. That's one of the things that's going on in the States right now to keep this. You got to now have Russia as this horrible guy, and you got to have the war manufacturing. You've got to have all this so these guys make their fortune. You need to be killing people around the world, because that's the best way of making money, and it's also a way to control the population. There was another point I was going to make from something you said before. In terms of, I forget what it was.
So you became an anti-globalization activist. Now, you spoke out against NAFTA, and I'm just going to assume that you were sort of anti-TPP.
Oh, yes, of course, yeah.
And what did you see as the real
that's
problem with the TPP?
Well, that's part of the whole question you were just asking a few minutes ago, about what's wrong with the globalization. It's a lie. It's a pretense that this is good for people, and it's the media, because it's controlled by such a small number of people around the world, that they have served the agenda of controlling the masses, getting them to think a certain kind of a way, and there's nothing good, nothing good about globalization, because primarily you go down to the root of how you live your life, how you control your life, how you make decisions for yourself, how you make decisions in the interest of your area, your space, your family, your personality. If you've got an agenda and a dictate that wants you to go this way and it's against your interests, and the controlling is so powerful against your interests, how do you fight that? And the only way we fight that, the only way we retain our sovereignty, the only way we retain our capacity to make decisions for ourselves, is to know that globalization is harmful, that globalization's agenda is to make us slaves, to make us automatons, to make us all just function the same kind of way, don't think for yourself. Why do you think we
just stay on the treadmill?
Stay on the and have nothing but these sports all the time to get people thinking. I mean, sports are good in many ways.
They're just healthy, sure.
But this kind of, sometimes you go someplace and there's nothing but these. You go into a restaurant or a bar, and all these massive televisions, all these different sports going on, and all people think about is the sport. So your mind is taken away from what's really going on, what's really developing in the world, how you're really being controlled,
and what you're losing.
And what you're losing. I mean, the kind of agenda of the stuff that's going on is
But this is very unpopular talk for many people.
Well, it's because it's uncomfortable, and people don't like to be uncomfortable. But the reality is, you either think, learn, and move ahead, be aware of what's going on, don't be frightened by it, but know what's there, and then step on the side and say, I'm not going that direction, and I'm over here, and I'm not with that path, and I'm comfortable, I'm over here, and I don't care what people say about me or what they think about me. I know that over here is right, and I know that over here is wrong. How long I'm going to be able to survive over here, or how long the world is going to be able to survive over here, I don't know. But the reality is I'm not on that automaton path. I'm just not going to be there. I mean, you get into the whole agenda of so much stuff that's going on that's so wrong in the world right now, and that we have no control over.
And people say, oh, it's conspiracy theory.
Well, it's
but
it's happening. This conspiracy theory is just a label to try to
deny
it and to make people feel to intimidate people and to
so they don't step off to the side.
Exactly. And
they stay with the main
and think for yourself. I want to know what's going on in the world. I want to understand what's going on in the world, and I want to make a decision, my choice, whether I want to go that path or not. I don't like the vaccinations that's going on. I don't like the chemicals that they're putting on in the sky around the world. You see the crap underneath you when you're flying, and it's all this.
They've been practicing.
It's genocide.
Yeah, and they've been practicing weather modification since the Vietnam War, and I mean that's common knowledge. You can go on the internet and find that all the information on that.
It's much more than weather modification.
Yeah, geoengineering. They're talking now.
It's so bad. It's so bad, and
and we have no say in that. No one's ever asked us, do you want this chemical or that chemical, or do you? I mean, nobody even knows really what
politicians don't
they do
know when you ask them something about it. And that's back to your point that you made at the beginning of the politicians and who rules them. They get killed if they do step out of line, if they do challenge the system. They don't get elected anywhere in the world unless they're in sync with the ruling class. And that's why, going to what's going on in the United States right now with Trump, he was talking in language that he was going to challenge this rule. That's why there's this massive attack on him and trying to get people to focus on some sexual innuendo or some little
from 12 years ago.
Focusing on that, how is that important in terms of the scheme of what's really going on in the world? If they don't kill him before he gets anything done, I'll be surprised. But there are good people,
There are good people everywhere.
And I don't like any politicians anymore. When we had the Canadian Action Party, it was an effort to try to deal with these kinds of issues, to raise the issues and get people thinking about the issues and talking about the issues and challenging the issues. It was a very good time.
And people will say, don't tell me. I don't want to hear that. That's not right. You're crazy.
Right.
Don't tell me. Don't talk to me.
I don't want to, because it frightens them. And my point...
And if it's true, then what are you going to do about it?
Well, if it's true, I don't want to know about it. What a lot of people would say.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's cowardly. Make up your mind. Do you want to live your life making a decision of your own destiny, or do you want to be controlled? And these science fiction movies that we have all around, the futuristic kinds of things.
There's the whole Orwellian.
They're real. They're a prediction of how it can be and might be. And if people don't make their choices, even if they say, well, there's nothing I can do, I'm only one little person. No, that's not true. We have to know, we have to understand, we have to think. Pay attention. And we talk. You talk to your neighbor. You and I are doing this right now. It's a way of, we're communicating, getting people to think. Get out of your box. Pay attention to what's going on. Care about the future. Care about how you live. Care about your social order. Care about the future for your children as a way of life that's happy, that's joyful, that's productive, all of which it can be on this special place, this gem of an earth. If we control it, if the people control it.
But the thing is, ruling bodies have been, ruling bodies that are not obvious to the everyday person. I'm just referring to the people with all of the money that, can contribute to a politician, or, have something that would benefit them put into place. And we don't see these people, and they've been in power for so long, and they're so entrenched. And I think maybe that's part of the reason, part of the problems that Trump has now in Washington. And I mean, how you can't just, how do you go up against them, or how do you change things and take the power back away? I mean,
from the social order, from the ruling elite. Well, the ruling elite has always been there historically. They've always been there on the earth, and it's just from time to time in history there's been something has happened that enlightened the people, that enabled the people somehow to see through things, and so they rebelled and they fought and they brought about changes. After the Second World War, we had a good time in Canada, for example. It was our mixed economy time that was the most productive, the most useful, the most social productive,
a boom
economic time for so many of us. Like I happen to benefit from that myself. And it all has to do with how people think about what's going on, and the kind of a flow of energy and a flow of information and enough people get on the same wavelength, and they they bring the shift around, so the politicians have to deliver to your people, and they have to push the elite away. I mean, the controllers of the world, the bank is the whole banking institution, and they had to back away after the Second World War, and so countries were able to, Canada was one of them, able to do things for the people, put the money into the economy for the people, instead of having it set up so the financial system extracts everything and the people get less and less. Mm-hmm. We're on that agenda now again of taking everything away from the people. How do you fight that? How do you deal with that? You deal with that by learning, by reading, by thinking, and by understanding.
You see, and this is the problem, though, because you have these very same people control 99% of the media.
I know.
Except for outfits, well, like us, community television. They control basically everything. So then there's the internet. Now you have people like Alex Jones, Infowars.com, has brought a great awareness of all of this to a lot of people. And these people are actually, I guess you would say, Trump's voter base. But these people are the ones that are turning things around. But there are still people that, like I say, they don't have internet, so they're really relying on the mainstream media.
Yeah, well, you can't. The mainstream media.
And this can't happen.
Once in a while, you get
anymore.
something the good. Like I'm just thinking, there's Nigel Farage in England, who was a representative from England to one of the. Yeah, okay.
The EU.
Yeah, and then you've got Dennis Kucinich in the United States, who has actually done an excellent speech recently, presentation. Yes. Everybody should Google that and find out. I'm sorry, I can't give the reference to it, but he basically just recently did a warning for the people of the United States, to explaining to them what's really going on, this attack on Trump, what's really going on, and the agenda for the destruction of the United States. And I used to ask myself, why is so much going on down there in the States that I think is so harmful? And I guess it's because part of the history of the United States, those are people that are used to rebelling, and because of their history and background.
They have that revolutionary
and it's important to crush
background.
That. Take away their arms, take away all their capacity, take away their capacity to make decisions for themselves. And so the attack is really heavy on the United States. For us, I mean, we're so connected now with agreements that we kind of, and we have such pussy-footed little leaders, they just do as they're told, so it's dangerous for us. We have to know what's going on there. But these good people do speak out, and there's the only way we can save ourselves, create a life for ourselves, have a life for ourselves, to get away from this oppression, is to think, is to be educated and to stay healthy. The 2 points that I was telling you about that Schultz talked about. How do you stay healthy? You have to be healthy. Take care of your health. And that means getting away from, you have to go to an alternative health kind of thing. You have to detoxify. You have to deal with the radiation that's all around us, so you can be well, so you can
And there's microwaves that are just
everywhere.
It's
horrible.
It's massive.
It's getting worse around the world.
Oh, yes.
And then continue to learn. Where do you learn? Programs like this. Find the areas in the internet where there's some good information. Study it, think about it. As soon as someone in the mainstream type starts attacking someone that's making a lot of good points, then pay attention to what that person is saying. Go to the sites
and
read
why.
about it. Find out why.
When you see 10 people in the media attack one person, question that.
Yeah.
Go in and look that up.
People will say, well, what good is that? What can I do? I think I mentioned this already. We are a body of thinking capacities around the earth, and maybe there's another whole level of energy that we connect through. I don't understand all of it, but to learn yourself and to get into a wavelength in your own energy, and then to find people. It's amazing how many people around you are thinking. The best, most informed people are the taxi drivers around the world. And it's because they listen to alternative media around the world. And then you just find all these soulmates, and know you're not alone, and know that it doesn't have to be the way these people are saying it has to be. We're just a movement. And just flow with the movement of what is correct and what is socially proper for individual identities and differences. That's what makes a world healthy and interesting. If we're all just bubbles of thinking the same, functioning the same, what's that? It's a pot of porridge that is useless.
So
There's hope, in other words. There's hope. I have even though it's so bad, there's so much stuff that's so bad. I know there's this flow of good thinking that's going on, and that's people say, well, that's all hocus pocus. No, it's not hocus pocus. It's the energy is real. We're all made of energy. That's what we are. We're bundles of energy, and that energy of consciousness is the connecting point to make the world that we want. Whether it's on this planet or someplace else, who cares?
right, and so that's the difference between an open, free society and globalization.
Thank you.
And being a globalist does not mean, as they say, a one world open, free society.
Well, you know what's interesting is it's a form of, it's a different form of globalization. It's a consciousness connection of humanity that's good because what I'm talking about is a flow of way of thinking and of being that protects and respects and cherishes individuality and differences and the right to be. We're born with different capacities. Why do we have to be all funneled into doing the same thing? No, we should be able to exercise our individual talents and our individual desires and our individual differences. That's what makes us rich. And but the richness is that we allow, that happens for everybody. The globalization that's on this agenda is to have everybody oppressed down into this package of blobs that just do as they're told and move along like this and go over here and function and produce to be slaves.
Dress the same, act the same, and vote the same.
And just produce, and when they stop, we don't need them anymore. We have robots to take them over, and then we have an agenda that kills off the masses of people because most of them are just useless eaters anyway. That's a quote.
And I've heard that quote many times, useless eaters. Yeah, who's recently just passed away.
I saw that, no loss, pardon me, but I mean, he did a lot of bad things. So, and it's interesting, I didn't like it that I think Trump was, he was dealing with them. So, Trump has got a lot of bad advisors around him trying to bring him back into the globalist way. And we'll see, he's an unknown quantity. Fighting at a kind of a level that I was hopeful that he was going to fight the globalization, and it seemed to be that's what to me he promised.
Well, I see a lot of hope because I see this alternative media now becoming more mainstream. Jerome Corsi, who I think you know.
Yes.
He is now becoming has become the Washington White House correspondent for Infowars.com and Alex Jones.
Wow.
So that's a big step.
It is.
Of us getting into the mainstream, becoming the mainstream, influencing the mainstream, maybe taking over the mainstream. Who knows down the road? Like you say, there is always hope.
And good things are happening. Good statements are being made. People just have to find them and connect with them. I mean, so many people don't want to know, and they just reject you. I mean, some members of my own family consider me to be eccentric. Okay, if I'm eccentric, that's fine.
I'll join you in that. And on that positive note, we'll end this for now, but please come back, join us. We're going to do a part 2 of this fascinating conversation with Connie Fogal. For After Hours, I'm Rhonda Freeman.